everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And today is another episode of our romantic reading wrap up where we talk about the reading that we've been doing over the course of the month. It's so much fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Bree is here.
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm good, girl. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I've had a very busy April.
Same.
I was telling off air that I've become like the TV woman. I don't know how this has happened, but yeah, I'm covering Heartland and Sex and the City and Winkles the Heart.
Do you think they're going to bring And Just Like That back for another season?
Yes,
What are
they
your
already
thoughts?
announced it.
Okay, cool.
Which
Good.
because
I've been hearing so many mixed things about. I have not watched it yet. I'm not ready.
I mean, Jax and I had a great time covering it, but it was not great.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I'm hearing. But
Yes.
even not so great Sex in the City is better than no Sex in the City. So I get it. We'll see.
We have to get you on City Girls Pod if you're a Sex and the City fan.
I am.
One of these days.
I loved the series. I'm just really nervous because I'm like, oh,
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't take it as like hard canon. I would just. I don't know.
I love that you've been watching TV because I feel like that's all I've been doing really in April is wanting to read, but just watching Ghosts. That show that's coming on I don't know what, CBS or whatever.
Yeah.
Just
that's
watching.
Funny. I just haven't had time to finish the season, but I did watch a number of episodes and I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I need to finish it.
Yeah, I thought it was done, and then I went on there a couple days ago. I was like, oh, there's 4 episodes I haven't even watched. So,
yeah. I think because I have I rent out my basement. I've a couple that live in my basement. I have a basement apartment down there, and I think they think I'm obsessed with the Food Network because it's my show that. I mean, maybe I am obsessed with the Food Network, but it's my show that is my relax show.
Which one? Which show?
Well, Be Bobby Flay is probably my favorite.
Okay.
But Chopped also.
Oh yeah, Chopped. I love Girl Meets Farm. I love Molly.
And she was just the host of the Spring Baking Championship.
Yes. Yeah.
So
there's so many good ones. I love her. I love Cardia Brown. There's just I'm with you. Food Network. My favorite though, it doesn't come on Food Network. It's called The Lost Kitchen, and it comes on the Discovery Plus app. It's part of the Magnolia channel,
I have that app.
It's so good. It's set in Maine, and Erin French, who runs it, she's all about using local ingredients. So you'll see scenes of her actually out with fishermen fishing or picking strawberries at local farms and stuff. And she loves flowers, so she's always putting edible flowers on the food. It's gorgeous. Aesthetically, it's beautiful to watch. So if you have that app, go watch The Lost Kitchen. Yeah, it's really good. Anyways, we're talking about food shows. We're here to talk about books.
Yes.
We can talk about food all day and shows.
So I'm very excited though, because the book that we are focusing on as our main book is one that I loved. We talked about it previously in our wrap up. I liked it so much that I had the author on, Lynn Painter. I had her on for an interview, talked to her about it. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. And I'm normally not a YA person. I particularly the whole sort of sullen teenager trope is one of my least favorites. And
Same.
I just don't. I say that I watch those movies and I feel like I need to call and apologize to my mother every time. Because it's just, I don't know. It's just not pleasant. And not that every movie has to be pleasant, but it just, a lot of times I feel like they don't give enough motivation of why this teen is behaving in this way. And so you just end up feeling frustrated.
But even
At least I do.
I think of like the To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I
Mhm.
didn't hate Laura Jean, like,
Oh, yeah,
at
she was
all in the
good.
books. Like, yeah, she lost her mom, and that sucked, but, like, she wasn't awful, you know? And I
Yeah.
just think sometimes we don't give teenagers enough credit. Like, sure, there are some snobby teenagers out there, and I'm sure we
Mhm.
all had our moments, but, like, they're also, like, not awful? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, even movies that other people just love, like Edge of 17 or Lady Bird, it's just not my favorite. I just don't like that
Yeah.
archetype of
Yeah.
just miserable and mean.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh.
If it's a
But
movie, a book, and I know that, like, oh my gosh, there's a teenager that's gonna be making the mom's life hell, I'm like, "Nope, I'm not in the mood." Like,
no,
I'm not in the mood for that.
yeah. But I thought that in this case, she does a really good job of creating that motivation for the difficult behaviors that sometimes Liz expresses. Um,
Mhm.
and it's usually based in her grief and her sense of loss over her mother not being there,
Yeah.
which I thought was good. And I guess the summary is a hopeless romantic teen attempts to secure a happily ever after moment with her forever crush, but finds herself reluctantly drawn to the boy next door.
Yeah. Now, I will
So I
say,
guess,
like, it is a real like you said, everything about her losing her mom and stuff, like, you understand why Liz is the way that she is, but listeners, don't get
mm.
me wrong, from my perspective, she still wasn't the easiest heroine to read. I was like, "You are lying." Like, and you have these awful moments as well, but you get it because
Mhm.
we're constantly reminded of, like, why Liz's goal, motivation, and conflict is, like, all throughout the book. Like, you never
Mhm.
forget. So, yeah.
Yeah, and she does learn by the end. I mean, because she's not the best friend to her
Right.
friend, and she's kind of difficult with her stepmom.
Yeah.
But again, that kind of lies in her feelings about her mother, and so by the end, she kind of comes around,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I just loved Wes so much. I
Me
thought he was
too.
great.
Yeah. I mean, he would say little things like, "Of course you don't like that." You know, and it's
Yeah.
like she has this moment of like, "How do you know?" And there's things where he kind of showed like, "I know you more than you think you did, like, you think I do." And then, like, even with her dad and her stepmom, they're like, "When you used to practice piano, he'd hang out on the back porch and just listen." Like, so there's even things he was doing behind the scenes that she didn't know about. And I'm
Yeah,
just
you're
like, "Oh,
so swoon
man,
worthy. Oh my gosh.
right." Like,
Yeah.
I love Wes. And
So
you're awful to
basically
him.
this the setup is so you have Liz who wants to uh wants to get together with this guy Michael who was her childhood crush, and she ends up making this deal with her neighbor Wes who's always teasing her, to help her to be able to get Michael. But of course, Wes is in love with Liz,
Yeah.
and I just loved that dynamic, and I liked the fact that Michael was a good guy. They didn't make him like the teenage version of a bad man of business. You know,
Right.
We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies Podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
He was
Right.
good. Good character. And I really just, I don't loved the way she wrote the book and built tension and got me invested. The whole thing with the way that they worked in rom-coms and the fact that she'd watched them with her mother, I thought really worked well.
But my thing was like, okay, this is my question mark.
Mm-hmm.
She's what? Just a junior, senior? And like I felt like I may be wrong. Like her mom died when she was really young. Is that right? Like how old was she when her mom died?
I got the impression that she was like 10 or
10
11.
or 11? Okay.
Yeah.
So this was my kind of as I like this pulled me out of the story just a little bit, and I was like, I have to
Mm-hmm.
talk to Rachel about this because we're both rom-com lovers. But like
Uh-huh.
I was reading this book and I'm like, this is a young adult novel. This is for an age demographic that's what, like, I'd say like 14 to 19, right? Maybe even like
Mm-hmm.
15, 19 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of like, I have a 16-year-old teenage cousin. And I'm like, if I gave her this book, would she pick up on these references? I feel like there's a rom-com podcast, Rom-Com Ever After, hosted by this girl, Allie, and she posted on Twitter recently, like, she saw a tweet, I'm totally paraphrasing this, but, like, somebody in the young adult publishing world basically kind of reconfirmed that, like, young adult novels today are written for the entertainment of adults, and I'm, like, reading this, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's from Pretty Women. Oh, there's a Sandlot," and I'm like, "Would my 16-year-old cousin pick up on this?" But it's, like, for
Yeah,
her
I
age
think
demographic.
I think that is a fair critique. I will agree. Although she does have some more modern ones, like things like Long Shot, and I think there is To All the Boys. So there's some more modern ones, but yeah, that's fair. That is a fair critique. That
My
they
thing was,
are.
like, they could maybe encourage people, like, "Oh, well, let me go watch Pretty Woman," but I'm like, also, do they care enough? I don't know, it's
Mhm,
like, I remember a couple summers ago, my friend read this Casey West young adult novel that, like, was a complete Dirty Dancing retelling, and she loved it as a 40-year-old woman who grew up loving Dirty Dancing, and I'm like, "Would teenagers actually know it was a Dirty Dancing retelling? And, like, would they
mhm.
care enough to go watch Dirty Dancing? Would they
Well,
even
and
pick up
and
on it?"
and there are a number of movies mentioned that are rated, which also teenagers probably, a lot of teenagers wouldn't have watched, like Bridget
Yeah.
Jones and When Harry Met Sally and uh and Long Shot. Um, so that's also maybe a bit of a problem. But I the quote that the section that I had kind of talks about some of these movies. I think it shows the way she's able to sort of integrate talking about the tropes. I thought she did a really good job with that. The way the banter between Wes and Liz about the tropes was really fun. And she says, this is on page 37. She says, at this point, you and Michael aren't mad at each other, so it's doomed. Every rom com has two people who can't stand each other in the beginning, but eventually bang it out. Gross. Seriously, you've got Mail, The Ugly Truth, When Harry Met Sally, 10 Things I Hate About You, Sweet Home Alabama. First of all, Sweet Home Alabama is a second chance at love trope. Oh, my
Yes.
bad. Second of all, you're a little impressive with your rom com knowledge, Bennett. Are you sure you aren't a closet watcher? He gave me a look, positive. I really was a little impressed. I loved The Ugly Truth. I won't tell anyone if you secretly fangirl over romance flicks. Shut it, he chuckled and gave his head a slow shake. So, what trope works for you and Michael then? The followed him around like a puppy, but now he sees the puppy as a potential girlfriend, even though he already has a potential girlfriend trope. You are an obnoxious love hater. It was all I could think of to throw back at him because all of a sudden, Wes had the uncanny ability to make me laugh. Like, even as he made fun of me, I had to force myself to not give in to another giggle. So I think that kind of shows the way she's able to kind of talk about these themes and these tropes. in it's such a seamless way. I thought was really well done.
Yeah. I just think the fun part of it for me was just, I think especially as teenagers, we have to be reminded that it is okay to obsess over something. It is totally
Yeah.
okay to have your thing and obsess over it. And if at any point in life that's okay, it's okay when you're a teenager, because eventually you get
Hmm.
old and life happens and you're too busy. Like that is the time. If you're a fan of romantic comedies, love the heck out of them and obsess over them. It's okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That the energy and excitement, even from a character like Liz, who is kind of sad for a lot of the book, that it, I don't hide what you love. It's you
Yeah.
don't have to be embarrassed for
Okay,
what
now
you
some of
like.
the movies were questionable though. Like, okay, my mom loved My Best Friend's Wedding growing up. Like I
Uh-huh.
distinctively remember her watching that all the time. But as I get older, I'm like, was that actually a romantic comedy? Her
No.
and the guy don't end up together, so it's not
Hmm.
really a romance per se. And then
Yeah.
I cringe, and this is one that is brought up a lot in both movies and books. Guys, I'm tired of hearing Gone with the Wind in like these like romance recommendations. As a woman of color, it's a nope from me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does this teenage girl, why were you watching Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, I mean, I hate The Ugly Truth, actually. She mentions it here. I think The Ugly Truth is absolutely terrible. But uh, but yeah, I mean, Gone with the Wind, I do have a certain degree of nostalgia for it because it was one my grandma really enjoyed and we would watch it together. And there's such a epic quality to of it, and some of that filmmaking does hold up. I mean, that scene with her treating the wounded soldiers when it pans out and it's just like full. There's so many of them. I mean, there's scenes like that are really impressive, but she's the worst. I mean, Scarlett is awful, and Ashley is such a dweeb. It's just like
But
what?
even thinking of like, okay, that she had like one quote from Sandlot, which was perfect, but I'm like, Sandlot's not a romantic comedy.
Yeah,
So
that's
why
true.
is this in the book? Like, there was no
Although it does
now and then.
have
Like, I think
the
of all the movies that weren't recommended, like you didn't have one from Now and Then. Like, that's a coming of age girl story, at least.
oh yeah, that would have been good. Yeah, that's true. I do love Sandlot, so maybe yeah, that's
Me
why
too.
I let it. Yeah,
Vinny the Jet
I let it
Rodriguez is
fly.
still my girlhood crush. Okay. So gorgeous.
uh Well, what do you think of Wes? Did you like Wes as much as did you like
I did.
Wes
I,
as a
I
character?
I think like you said, like I think she had two good guys,
Yeah.
but the one that really knows you, and I think
Hmm.
I don't know, I think that another kind of side of the obsessing over something, like she had like you are trying to live your life like a movie and you want to get the guy that's come back to town with a cute southern drawl accent, but like this guy's been your guy for a long time and you just did not know it. Like everything you want is right there in the boy next door.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I loved him. I really did.
Yeah, it is kind of friends to lovers, but also enemies to lovers at the same time.
Yeah.
We talked about our trope time. There's also, a little bit of a love triangle.
Yeah. My
So,
thing, like, I think the one of the, I guess, needed parts of the story, her stepmom tells her, getting close to me isn't going to erase the memory of your mom. And
right.
I loved that because she was kind of awful to her stepmom. And
Yeah.
her stepmom was so chill. Her dad's kind of like not really that big of a character in the book, I
Hmm.
guess. But I really I loved when her stepmom said that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so their reconciliation through the story, I think, is really good, and the same thing with with her friend. I forget the name, but that she's pretty rude to her. That she because she doesn't want to go prom dress shopping without her mom, but her friend keeps asking her, and then she just keeps dissing her friend. And where, she should be honest with her friend about why she's feeling this way. I mean, if
Mhm.
so, but I guess I appreciated that we had a flawed character who was learning and growing through the story, and she wasn't just sort of they had good motivation for her anger. She wasn't
Yeah.
just the sullen teen to me, so I appreciated that. But really, my main love of this movie was I just loved Wes. I thought he was great,
Yeah.
and I thought all of the banter about like the tropes and the way I thought the writing was really solid.
What did you think about I just thought about this because I remember there was a book I read a while ago where the guy, the friend was like this really good guy, and it took for her to see him with another girl
Yeah.
for it to be like, "Oh, wait a minute." You know, I just like I think sometimes we need that, obviously, but also
Hmm.
like what he's willing to do for you to help you get with another guy when he's in love with you. Like
Yeah.
that just
Yeah. I like that he realizes that all of his advice was bad. Like he didn't even like his advice. He's
yeah.
like, "Why are you dressing this way?" She's like, "I'm dressing the way you told me." No, it's no good.
Yeah.
That's good. I also thought the kiss scene was so good. Well
Yeah,
done.
because yeah. Yeah.
Very romantic. And she just went for it, which was
I would
great.
love to talk with a YA author because my question is like my parents were divorced when I was a teenager, but they were both
Uh-huh.
still alive. Like, is it kind of like this golden rule in YA that like either a parent has to be dead? I mean, we see this in Hallmark movies a lot too. And I'm like, nobody's parents are still alive. Like mine are both
Yeah.
alive and well in their 50s and
Well,
thriving. And it's
I
like, what
mean,
is that?
it's the same way with Disney movies.
Yeah.
Almost all the mothers are dead.
Yes. Like, I just talked to my mom this morning twice. Like, she's fine.
And I don't know why they do that. I mean, I guess it gives a certain degree of independence to the characters that I think maybe helps in writing your story.
Yeah. And what I thought was really well done in this book was I can't remember what Liz she says, but you basically she realizes like here I am, I'm this age, my mom died a long time ago, and how you're when you lose someone, whether it's a parent or a friend, I think we can all look back on our teenage years and remember like that one kid that died in a car accident or got really sick and like they're kind of like stuck in time, and then you look at where you are now and you're like, wow, like you're not getting to be part of this because you're stuck at in this like a time capsule almost.
Yeah.
um and I loved that moment, that brief moment that we got with Liz where it's like, wow, my mom's not getting, I think she was like talking about prom or something, and like she's not getting to be part of this. And it's like, no, your mom is stuck in the time where we lost her. She's not getting
Hmm.
but your life is going to continue, so you have to continue living. Like that's kind of how you honor that person.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it, uh, that you'll still have those moments where you'll be overwhelmed and with the grief, but you have to push through it
Exactly. Yeah.
and keep going. I mean, I'm fortunate that I haven't lost anybody in my. I mean, I've lost my grandparents now, and some of my cousins. I've had some cousins pass away, but no, nobody in my immediate family, thankfully.
Yeah.
But definitely if it in high school, if anything like that, that would have been really, really rough. I mean, I remember my one of my friends in high school, her father passed away. It was a very sad situation. He was helping helping people that had gotten that was helping people with their car. He was a good Samaritan, basically, and he got hit. by
Oh
a car, and
man.
it was
Yeah.
so sad. And yeah, I mean, that would be just brutal, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there is something to this that people think that you've moved on a lot faster than you actually have, like moved
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
It's like, but
I, I don't think grief works that way. you
yeah.
know.
So I really enjoyed this book. I just thought it was so well written. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the banter. I thought that Wes and Liz were really great together. I thought the kiss was really good, and yeah. So, well, and it has like there's like a kiss. There's like a tiny bit of there's some language in the
Yeah.
book, and there's like
Teenage
a
language.
tiny bit, yeah. uh, but I thought the chemistry was really good between Liz and Wes, and so I really enjoyed it. I mean, I give it like I think I gave it like a 5 star on
Okay.
Goodreads. But I don't know, like a 9 out of 10. What did you think overall?
Yeah, I rated it like a 3.75 star, round
So
up
pretty
to
good.
4 star. Yeah, I liked it. I don't read as much young adult as I used to. I think like what 4 or 5 years ago, like that was all that I read. Um, it's just yeah, like you said, like the
Hmm.
whole not nice teenager thing. I think because as a mom, like I have a 13-year-old, I'm like, I don't want to go through this.
Yeah.
Please don't. So but yeah, I really liked it. I think my only pull out was like, are teenagers actually picking up on these references? Like, I
Yeah,
know
that's
it's a
fair.
thing. My daughter is very much into 90s music and like 80s music and like 90s television. So I get it, but I'm like, that's also
Hmm.
not all
I think,
teenagers
but I think part of the problem is that people haven't been making romantic
stuff.
comedies for the
Yeah.
last 20 years. So what ones
Yeah.
are you going to bring up? I mean, aside from To All the Boys and a couple other Netflix ones, I mean, I think
They're
she does
not
bring
putting
up
it out.
Crazy Rich Asians. I think that's in there.
Yeah.
So what do you talk about?
And
I
Hallmark's not wanting
that's
to make rom-coms as much
Oh
anymore.
my gosh. Yeah, I know.
My daughter watches those with me during the holidays, so I mean,
Yeah.
don't take them away, Hallmark.
Please. So I think that's part of the challenge probably, is there
Yeah.
just aren't any, certainly not any really iconic ones in the last 20 years.
We
Not
just
much.
need we need another Nora Ephron.
I know.
We
It's
need a
true.
couple more
We
Nora
really do.
Ephrons.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/hallmarkies.
Well, let's talk about what else we've been reading.
Okay.
So, the first book that I read was for book club. This is not a romance. It is Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. And I thought it was really clever. It's a take on kind of historical fiction with zombies brought in. And the idea is that basically, like, Gettysburg there was so much death that it like created zombies. The lead character, her name's Jane. She is a mixed race woman, and she gets sent to the school by her mother where she is trained to kill zombies. And uh, I don't know. I just thought it was really clever. I really liked the lead character. I found it gripping and interesting. And they kind of deal with some themes of her friend Catherine is passing as white. And so that's kind of a theme that's explored in the story. And I don't know. I thought it was really entertaining, and it's definitely bloody. It's not, uh, but I liked it. I thought it was good. There's a sequel that I haven't read that I'd be interested in reading. So that was for book club.
I really want to read that one. I think there's like is there a second one already for that one?
Yeah. There's a
Okay.
sequel,
Okay. Okay.
but I haven't read that one. But I thought this was good. I thought it was well written. It was exciting. It was gripping. I didn't know where it was going. It was creative. So I'd recommend it. I thought it was good.
Awesome. Well,
Cool.
my first one was The Gathering Table by Katherine Springer, and this is an inspirational romance. I mean, I feel like it's one of those books that kind of blurs the line between romance and women's fiction. I mean, the romance was in there; it was sweet, but I don't know. I just really liked the main heroine's journey. She is a chef, and she gets this job to do chef things basically. And when she arrives at the house, the woman who hired her isn't there. Come to find out, she had like a stroke, I think like a year or so ago, and she just recently had a fall and has had some like just kind of like lingering after effects from that. So her social worker like has her like in a nursing home for the time being. So she gets the job and like the woman's not there, but she's like, take care of the house, do your job, it's fine. Like completely trusts her to do her own thing. I mean, and this is a little weird for her, her last job she got fired because of some trust stuff. So she goes into this role, the woman's friends just kind of show up and she becomes friends with them, and I don't know. It's a really wonderful, like, found family story. And like this is one thing I used to love in historical fiction, like two women connected like connected in some way but separated by time. And in this one, like they're both still alive and there is that connection because she's hired her or whatever. But we get to see the main character like connect with the people that she loves and kind of get to know her through them and just kind of see what kind of a wonderful person it's like. There is a teenage girl that just kind of sneaks into the house and practices piano, and she'll find her like sleeping on the couch, and we learn, she just kind of lets me come in if I need to come in, and you find out why. And there's a boy with Down syndrome, and she kind of takes him in under her wing and like has him be her sous chef. And like, it's so good, you guys. So if you're into inspirational romance or you're like wanting to give it a try, I mean, it wasn't over the top, or like as my friend tends to say, like it wasn't too preachy. I feel like sometimes that can pull me out of the story, just like too many sex scenes can pull me out of a story at times.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like I loved this book, you
Mm,
guys. So that's The Gathering Table by Katherine Springer.
that's good because inspirational romance can be. I feel like sometimes the inspiration part of it can feel so tagged on, like
Yeah,
not part of the story, and then they just kind of added it in at last minute. And so that's good to know that this is a good one.
yeah, definitely.
Well, my second book that I read this month is called The Sweet Life by Suzanne Woods Fisher. It's mildly inspiration. It's not romance. It's not a romance. There's like a tiny bit of romance, but not much. It's more women's fiction, I would say. But I read it because I interviewed Suzanne, and they're going to be sponsoring the podcast in May. The book isn't released yet, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It's basically about this mother daughter team that the daughter gets dumped before her wedding, and so she ends up going on this what was going to be her honeymoon trip to Cape Cod. She ends up going with her mother, and while she's there, her mother, who's more of like a free spirited type, where the daughter is more, everything's got to be planned to fit into my life goal, and the mother decides to kind of spur the moment buy this ice cream shop in Cape Cod. And and the daughter thinks it's just crazy. What is she doing? But she loves making ice cream, and that was a big memory of her with her and her dad. Her dad has passed away, speaking of dead parents. But I thought it was good. I thought it was I feel like you don't typically see mother daughter books like this, and sort of their relationship.
That sounds good. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed talking to Suzanne in that interview. Y'all will enjoy it. She's great. So, what do you have next?
So I just had to be honest here because was not going to put this on the list, but I was like, you know what? We're keeping it real here. The next one is one that I did not enjoy as much, but I'm never going to tell anybody not to read something because y'all may pick it up and love it. And it was called Savvy Sheldon Feels Good as Hell by Taj McCoy. And when we meet Savvy in the beginning, she's in a relationship that like she's really working hard to make work. And the guy dumps her. He basically says, you work too much and you've let yourself go. And typically, after a character, like if a character like experiences a breakup in the beginning of the book, we don't really see the ex that much after that, right? Like, no, this guy pops up all throughout the book and he fat shames her. Like, it is so cringy. It was awful. And she really takes on this like, okay, I'm gonna get a revenge body, I'm gonna make him feel bad for like this decision he's made. And it's like diet culture, and just it had a lot of potential, but I think instead of being like helpful and maybe inspirational, it just became a little bit harmful. The actual hero of the book, she thinks is homeless for like the first couple of chapters because every time she sees him, he's dirty and walking a dog. And so she thinks he's homeless. And come to find out, like, no, he's a contractor. That makes sense why he's, dirty all the time. But it's like it remains kind of the joke throughout the rest of the book, like, you're homeless guy, you're homeless guy. And I was like, no, this is not funny. This is not cool. So yeah, I just wanted to still mention it because I did read it. It's one of my most recent reads. If anyone listening picks it up and feels differently or just wants to talk about it, I'd love to talk about it with someone that has read it. So that is Savvy Sheldon Feels Good as Hell. I have friends who've read it and they really loved it. So it just may be very nitpicky me. But yeah, I just did not enjoy it. I just think if that's something that triggers you, be careful, trust your gut. The minute you're like, I'm a little uncomfortable, I say put the book down. So that's it.
A good old DNF.
Yes.
Sounds like
So okay, you read a Bridgerton book.
I did. I an offer from a gentleman, the third Bridgerton book, and it's harmless. It's fun, but definitely my least favorite of the three that I've read. It is basically a Cinderella story. I mean, and I know that the other two had like themes from like the second one has got a lot of Pride and Prejudice in it. But this one, I mean, she has an evil stepmother. She's like, there's a whole thing with shoes throughout. I mean, it is very Cinderella. So I kind of hope they skip this one for the series because I just feel like that's so played out. We've had so much that
Cinderella is like the fairy tale that gets retold over and over and over and over again. So
yeah, it's about this girl named Sophie who's when her father dies, her stepmother basically makes her a servant in the house, and she, through various things, ends up being able to go to the ball, and she connects with Benedict and Bridgerton, and so I don't know. I mean, it's fine, but it's just not.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We don't need an adaptation off of this one, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Plus Benedict in the show at least is not my favorite. I'm just
okay.
I don't know. I could care less.
Maybe they'll just like blend it with like another one from the series.
I mean, but I didn't care about Anthony either, and they managed to get me to
Give
care.
him a story, right?
I mean, it's just such a. The first season was so female focused, and we was obviously telling Daphne's story, and I think that if this season 2 and season 3 are both from male perspectives, I think that's a bit of a loss. But yeah, I would just skip right to the fourth book. I mean, I guess although technically that's from Collins, it's Colin and Penelope in the fourth book. I haven't read that one yet,
Yeah.
but anyway,
I
the
mean, I know
third
it's a big
one.
deal. It's a big deal on Netflix. Do you
Mhm,
as a viewer, like I think of Sex and the
mhm,
City, right? And how Sex and the
mhm,
City, I was so angry that it ended at like season 6. But at the same
mhm.
time, I was like, this is so smart to not drag it out. With Bridgerton, how much more do you want? Do you like want them? You don't want them to drag it out, but like, when do you think would be a smart point to stop?
I mean, it's hard because I think they could do it for a long time because each season is about different characters. I mean, the same characters, but it's that romance novel thing of we're gonna each uh
Sibling is going to get a book.
sibling, yeah, it's so that it feels like each one is sort of a spin-off of the original the original season. I mean, I could picture them having a long run. I really could. I mean, they've already renewed it through season 5.
Wow. Okay.
So we know but we just don't know if they're going to follow necessarily the books for every book, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But
Well, I heard
uh,
like so my friend
there's a
Sarah,
lot of
she loves
books.
it. Yeah. My friend Sarah loves it and she's like book 1 and
Yes.
2 have like the same tropes. She's like so while people are ticked that the second season is so different. She's like why would they want this first and second season to have when the
I
books
don't
are
feel
so
like it has the
similar.
same tropes. I disagree. I mean, the thing is the first season is basically about a married couple. And
Yeah.
so the sensuality is going to be a lot higher, and the story is just very different between. It's not an enemies to lovers story, like in the second season. They don't get together until the very very end, and
Mhm.
so obviously that's going to be a lot different than the first season, which is about their marital problems.
Well, we know we're
So
getting 3 more seasons, so
yeah,
it'll be interesting to
it's
see.
definitely spicy. So
Shout out to Shonda Rhimes.
season 1 way more than season 2, but still.
Oh
But what is
gosh.
your last book you want to talk about?
My last one was Ever After Exes, and it's by Susanna Irwin, and it's a second chance romance, obviously. And I read this because my books club every month we just pick like a theme, and so our theme this month was matchmakers, and this book has a matchmaker in it, and it's the hero. So he's come up with this dating site, and it's been successful so far. Both of his sisters have found the loves of their life using it, and there's like this a production company that wants to do the thing of like adapting this matchmaking site into an actual like reality TV show. And they want him to be the guinea pig, like, come on and do it yourself type of thing. But then his paths cross with, this woman that he's had a very quick thing with before. And I loved her. She was like one of those no nonsense, like all about her business heroines. And like, yeah, when they're it's very tropey. It's like they get stranded at this house together, and then there's like one of those like California mudslide storms, so they literally get stuck at the house together.
Yes, I love
And
that.
yeah, it's like kind of like this fun spin on like one bed. Like we can't go anywhere. We're stuck here together. And it's just like him realizing like, yeah, like I do have my person kind of thing. So I really loved it. I really love a fun second chance with all the extra added tropes in there. So, yeah, that was Ever After Exes by Susanna Irwin.
That sounds really cute. That sounds good. Well, let us know if you got to read Better Than the Movies or any of the books that we talked about. Let us know what you thought, if you enjoyed them, and we would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And I'll put a link in the description to the interview I did with Lynn Painter. I thought it was a really fun one. She's super fun, and she has a new book.
Rachel,
What's
speaking
that?
of rom-coms, we're doing a book by the Nora Ephron next month, which is not a
Yes,
rom-com, but
yeah. This is going to be really interesting because we're going to be talking next month about Heartburn by Nora Ephron, and it's all about her divorce. So it's probably going to be a bit of a downer. But I've had it on my to be read for a long, long time. So this is good to
same, yeah.
check it off. And I've never seen the movie. I mean, it just sounds like such a downer. But
Oh, you have to watch the movie, Rachel. It's so good. Meryl Streep and Jack Nicholson. Oh, it's so good. But I want to read that book. I think the book it's also looks like it's really short. So I'd love to hear your take on both the book and the movie. So
so we will
read it with us, guys. Read it with us.
Yeah, so that would be really fun. Well, it'll be interesting. It'll be enlightening.
Yeah.
Probably not fun. So, let us know what you think about Better Than the Movies. Like I said, I'll have the interview with Lynn in the description. You should check that out. She was awesome. And we'll have our affiliate links also in the description if you want to purchase any of the books. We have the links down below, so we appreciate it. And Bree, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Bree.unabashedly, and I co-host the Categorically Romance podcast.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And you can find both of us on Goodreads. So we'll have those links down in the description as well. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. We really, really appreciate it. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. Please take a look at that. We so appreciate it. And thanks so much, Bree. This is always so much fun. And we'll talk next month. Bye,
everybody.